want to start with you about a question that was asked earlier. You ordered today that a deputy or deputies in Broward County will be present at Douglas School, but also at schools throughout Broward County, carrying rifles, armed. This afternoon, President Trump suggested that teachers, we should think about arming them as well. We discussed that a little bit here earlier. I'm wondering what you, as a law enforcement officer, what you think.
I don't believe teachers should be armed. I believe teachers should teach. But that's exactly what's wrong with this country. We have people in Washington, D.C., representatives, senators, and legislators telling teachers what they should do without asking teachers, what do you want to do?
Okay. I want to bring in right now Senior Emma Gonzalez. She has a question. She has a question for Dana.
First of all, I want to thank Mr. Foster for teaching us everything we learned. I could not have written that speech without you. Half of that was like directly from notes, and I want to thank you for that. Second of all, oh, I had a thing I was going to say. Happens to the best of us. All right. Dana Loesch, I want you to know that we will support your two children in the way that we will not. You will not. The shooter at our school obtained weapons that he used on us legally. Do you believe that it should be harder to obtain these semi-automatic and weapons and the modifications for these weapons to make them fully automatic, like bump stocks?
Well, first off, Emma, I want to applaud you for standing up and speaking out. And for anyone who has ever criticized you or any of these students up here, including people who have been on my side of this issue, I don't think that anyone should deny you your voice or deny you your position because you are young.
We want to thank you for that.
I was a very politically active teenager, and I'm on this stage as a result of that. Think of how far you all could go as a result of voicing your beliefs. Now, I want to answer your question, and I want to be allowed the opportunity, which is why I am here, to talk and have this discussion with you all and answer these questions. This is why I came down here. I don't believe that this insane monster should have ever been able to obtain a firearm. Ever. I do not think that he should have gotten his hands on any kind of weapon. That's number one. This individual was nuts. And I, nor the millions of people that I represent as a part of this organization that I'm here speaking for, none of us support people who are crazy, who are a danger to themselves, who are a danger to others, getting their hands on a firearm. And we have been for over 20 years, and I have been screaming about this, which is why I'm here, because I have kids, and I'm not just fighting for my kids, I'm fighting for you, I'm fighting for you, I'm fighting for all of you, because I don't want anyone to ever be in this position again. I want everyone to think about this for 1 second. This goes right into your question. Do you know that it is not federally required for states to actually report people who are prohibited possessors, crazy people, people who are murderers? No? We've been actually talking about that for a long time. Let me answer the question. Let me answer the question. You can shout me down when I'm finished, but let me answer Emma's question. It is not federal law for states to report convictions to the NICS system. It's not federally mandated. That's the big question, and I wish that this network had also covered this more as other media networks would have covered it. That's a huge, wait a second.
You guys, if I can't hear her statement, I can't come up with a rebuttal. Please.
Wait a second. Do you guys want to stop mentally insane individuals from getting firearms?
You better not get one now.
Yes? They have to be in the system. If they are convicted, you can convict them, you can adjudicate them mentally unfit. If a state does not report it to the National Crime Information Center, when you run that form, this individual passed, this madman passed a background check. How was he able to pass a background check? He was able to pass a background check because we have a system that's flawed. The Sutherland Springs murderer was able to pass a background check because the Air Force did not report that record.
I think I'm just gonna interrupt you real quick and remind you that the question is actually, do you believe it should be harder to obtain these semi-automatic weapons and modifications to make them fully automatic, such as bump stocks?
Well, I think the ATF is deciding about bump stocks right now. The president ordered the DOJ to look into it.
I'm asking your opinion as a representative of the NRA.
That's what the NRA's position has been. The NRA came, I'm talking for them. These are the 5 million members that I'm here representing. That is what that group's position has been on that. So that answers your question. And they spoke about that before the president made a move, and they spoke about that before Attorney General Jeff Sessions made an announcement about that too. So that answers your question with that.
Just interject for a second, though. And I understand you're standing up for the NRA, and I understand that's what you're supposed to do. But you just told this group of people that you are standing up for them. You're not standing up for them until you say, I want less weapons. These people want three things. And I come here tonight with 39 years in law enforcement. I've Baker-acted people. I've taken weapons from people. The men and women I've worked with for almost 40 years. We know how to keep America safe. Number one, we have to, you're right, we have to take weapons out of the hands of people that suffer from mental illness. We have to expand the Baker Act. We have to be able, when police encounter someone, Emma, when police encounter someone who is going through a mental illness, we don't only have to wait, or we shouldn't have to wait until they are a danger to themselves or someone else. We should be able to take them to an institution that's going to examine them and take weapons away from them right then and there at that time.
And Sheriff, you're a member of the NRA, yes? No, you're not a member of the NRA. I want to bring in Diane Wolk-Rogers, who teaches AP World History. One of the victims, Carmen Shentrup, was in her class, and she has a question for Dana as well.
Dana, I viewed the dead body of Carmen Shentrup, our student. I watched her mother and father kiss her goodbye one last time and close the top of her casket. I looked at Robert and I hugged him, my dear, dear Robert, and I told you that Carmen, she died a martyr. Our kids have started a revolution. I'm proud and I'm inspired to be a part of Never Again. Now here's my question. I'm a history teacher. I asked my students to define terms for me. So I'd like you to define something for me, because I've wondered about it, and I want to know, what is your definition of a well-regulated militia, as stated in the Second Amendment, and using supporting detail, explain to me how Let me finish. And using supporting detail, explain to me how an 18-year-old with a military rifle is well regulated. And the world, our country, our nation is going to grade your answer.
Well, by all means. And I want to say as well, as a parent, I see my kids and these students. I see my kids and the students that are here today. What you went through is horrid. I'm not going to pretend to understand what you went through. There are no words for it. It's monstrous, and nobody should have to endure that. I want to answer your question. George Mason was one of the founders, and he said, the militia is the whole of the people. It's every man, it's every woman. That is who the militia is. In the context of the time, a well-regulated militia meant an American man and American woman, a citizen of the United States of America, who could operate and service their firearm.
How is an 18-year-old, that was in the context of the time.
Yes.
How now is an 18-year-old with a military assault rifle well regulated? Use supporting detail.
Right. He's not. Well, he's not. He shouldn't have been able to get a firearm. He should have been barred from getting a firearm. And he should not have been able to. He should not have been able to purchase a firearm.
So what are
trying
you,
to.
the NRA, going to do about it?
Let me answer. If we're here to have a discussion, that's why I'm here. I want you to ask me every question. I want you to give me every question you have.
Let's have some respect. She's here to answer the questions. Let's let her answer the questions.
He should, A, never been able to get a firearm. B, people who are crazy should not be able to get firearms. C, people who are dangerous to themselves and other individuals should not be able to obtain a firearm. There isn't a loophole. It's a criminal act, and that's what we have to start calling it. We have to start, number one, following up on red flags. 39 times in the past year, it was law enforcement or it was social services that went to this individual's home. Now, there are 2 Florida statutes. One of them, I don't know if the comment that he had put on YouTube would have qualified for you to Baker Act him, but sending messages telling other students that he was going to murder them and he was going to kill them, I would think certainly would qualify under a Florida state statute for you to have Baker Acted him.
Let me respond to that. First of all, we've talked about the Broward Sheriff's Office and some other local agencies and the FBI getting tips and what have you. America, there's one person responsible for this act. That's the detestable, violent killer. He is responsible for this act. Nobody else but him. There's 3 things we need to do in America to keep America safe. Number one, we have to use through crime prevention, through environmental design, build schools differently so they're harder to penetrate. Number 2, we need to be empowering police officers and deputy sheriffs throughout the nation to be able to take people who are an immediate threat to themselves or an immediate threat to someone else to be examined. And we need to take guns away from them forever. They should never get them back. They should have to go through a psychological evaluation. And if we have a doctor or a clinician have to sign their John Hancock and say that person should be given back their Second Amendment right, we're not going to see doctors do that. But lastly, we do need to have some gun control reform. 18-year-olds should never have a rifle. An 18-year-old kid should not have a rifle. 18-year-old kid, they're not adults yet. They're in high school. These kids should not have a rifle. Bump stocks should be illegal. They should be outlawed forever. Automatic rifles should be outlawed forever. And anybody who says different, I don't know about other people, but Emma and I, we're calling BS on that.
So. Earlier tonight, I'm going right to you. Earlier tonight, Senator Rubio said that he supported the notion of raising the legal purchasing age from 18 to 21 for semi-automatic weapons. That is not the position of the NRA. Why is it not your position?
Well, it's not the position of the NRA because I think that if we are asking young men and women to go and serve their country, that they should be able to also have a firearm. I'm also thinking of young women.
There is a military exemption. There is a military exemption.
True, but with specifically where it relates to long guns, because it's 21 for handguns, 18 for long guns. But I also think of young women, and you've had a previous town hall where you spoke with a young woman named Kim Corbin, who was a college student who was brutally raped in her dorm, and she was under the age of 21. And one of the things that she speaks out about loudly now is how she wished she would have had the ability to be able to have a shotgun, whatever it was, to be able to defend herself. I was 20 years old when I lived on my own. I didn't live with my parents when I was 20. I lived on my own when I was 20 years old. And I didn't, well, not at first, but I mean, I had a shotgun. But I think that we have to take that into consideration. We have to think about individuals. I mean, if you're old enough to vote, you're old enough to drive a car, you're old enough to serve your country, I think that you are old enough now, here's the caveat, if anyone wants to listen to the caveat. The caveat, though, Jake, and for everybody out there, is if you are not a danger to yourself or others. That's what it comes back to. If you are not a threat to yourself or your community, That is what it comes back to.
Hey, Chris, you're serving. How do you feel? You're going to the military. You're 18.
Okay.
How do you feel about
Cameron,
that?
that's okay. I want to go to Alyssa. I'm sorry. I want to go to Lori Alhadeff, who lost her daughter Alyssa in the shooting. Alyssa was 14. She was a soccer player. And Lori has a question for Dana. Lori.
Please hold all applause to the end. Wake up, America. Fight for the survival of your children. Fight for the right to go to school and to feel safe. No child should ever turn to their mother at 6 years of age and ask, "Mommy, am I going to die today?" My name is Lori Alhadeff. My daughter is Alyssa Alhadeff. She lost her life at school, shot 3 times, and she was not able to be identified until 2 a.m. on the morning of February 15th, along with 16 other parents who lost their children. I am tired of people doing nothing. This horrific incident has to be the catalyst that finally puts things in action. Let's make our schools safe again. Hashtag Alyssa Alhadeff. In 2013, the NRA released a 225-page report to call for more security at schools. It detailed security guards, teacher training, bomb-sniffing dogs, expanded police presence in schools. Here we are 5 years later, and nothing has been done. Our teachers need to be properly trained to teach our children how to handle a code red. We can visually mark hiding areas in the classrooms to protect our children from being gunned down. Where are our metal detectors? Where is our bulletproof glass? Where are children's ID badges with the photos, names, and the ability to open locked doors? Where are the new versions of Amber Alerts before school safety? Where are the lists of things to do and the ability to do them that every school needs to have in order to provide safety for our kids? Where is the funding to protect the ones who will be the future of our nation? Who is funding the safety protocols? How are state and federal teams working together? How do the local police forces support our schools? Who will lead the programs to pass new laws that require security cameras, bulletproof shields in classrooms, more drills for teachers to help manage things such as things that they have faced? Where are the school psychologists? Who is helping to put a plan for that in place? And why hasn't anything been done since Sandy Hook? How many more of these do we need to endure before something happens? We need an emergency meeting now. Put politics aside and put our children first. I don't want to see another parent lose a child in this senseless way. I want us to all send our kids to school with the feeling of security. In the name of hashtag Alyssa Alhadeff and the 16 others who lost their lives, and the thousands who were traumatized and are speaking up for their rights, we must bring about change, clear calls to action to make our schools safe again. How do the NRA and lawmakers work together? Who is going to pay for this? What is the plan to put things into action? These are my questions, and we all want a clear answer. Enough talk! What is your action?
So, in 2013, the NRA did release its National School Shield Task Force major recommendations. What did happen with them?
150 schools across the country have implemented them so far. It's up to the schools and the parents of those schools if they want to use those resources and they want to use those suggestions in order to, as this mother was suggesting, and those were great questions. The NRA has also partnered with law enforcement. In fact, it's this organization is one of the biggest partners of law enforcement. We've trained thousands of law enforcement members all across the country, and we're still expanding. And this is one of the things that I want to make clear as well. I think it's up to schools and parents to determine what they want to do in their schools. The NRA is not going to make that decision. If they want to have armed guards, if they want to have retired military, if they choose and teachers volunteer to be armed, I think that's up to each individual school and the parents of that school district. But if they also want a solution that doesn't involve firearms, if they want to talk about checkpoint systems, if they want to talk about reinforcing doors, the NRA, our resources are at their disposal. That's what School Shield was created for.
Sheriff?
I agree with what Dana said, but I think the problem is too many people want to do the same old, same old. The author said that doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is insanity. We as this country, we need to do something different. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But let's try doing something different. Let's try and set if you have a football team and they're getting burnt deep, you're going to not let the same receiver beat you're going to give them some help. You're going to bring a safety over the top. You're going to do something different. And what I think we need to do in America is something different and have less guns on our streets, not more guns.
Yeah, I'm just going to give Dana the chance to rebut, and then we'll go to the next question.
We had 3 lawmakers on this stage, and only one of them hinted at reinforcing the background check system. It is only as good as the record submitted to it. Only one of them even got anywhere close to mentioning that. We have to have more than 38 states submit records. That's number one. Number 2, we have to develop better protocol to follow up on red flags. This monster carrying bullets to school, carrying knives to school, assaulting students, assaulting his parents, 39 visits in the past year. That should never have been allowed to get that far. And I don't have the authority or the resources to follow up on that. If you want to give me the authority and resources, I'll follow up on those red flags. But I don't have that authority to do so. This is why we have to start asking these questions. I want to see your network ask these questions. I want to see these headlines in the media more. We have to follow up on protocol, and why are the states not complying with this law?
So let's talk about red flags. The next question comes from Linda Beagle-Shulman. She lost her son, Scott Beagle. He was a geography teacher who died protecting his students, and she has a question for Dana. Linda.
Dana, the Second Amendment was ratified in 1791. The Declaration of Independence was written in 1776, which gave my son the unalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So I ask you, why are my son's unalienable rights not protected as fiercely as the right to bear arms?
I'm sorry for what you experienced. And I'm not going to, as I said, I'm a parent, but I have not been in this position. And as a parent, it terrifies me, to be honest with you. It's terrifying. Now, you asked whether it's a life or firearms or life or Second Amendment thing. I think that all life should be protected. All life should be protected. That's why next week there's going to be good guys with guns that are going to be in school protecting lives, just as there's armed security here. We are in the presence of firearms protecting lives. This isn't if you believe in your right to self-defense, you hate kids, or if you believe in your right to self-defense, you don't believe that people have the right to live. That's not what this issue is. This issue is about making sure that we're protecting innocent lives. No innocent lives should be lost. None of them should.
When the Second Amendment was ratified, they were talking about muskets. We're not talking about muskets. We're talking about assault weapons. We're talking about weapons of mass destruction that kill people.
On that issue, at the time, there were fully automatic firearms that were available, the Belton gun and the Puckle gun. And in fact, the Continental Congress reviewed a purchase of one of those firearms for the...
Doesn't make it right.
Well, what I'm saying is there was more than just muskets available. We don't say that no one has a right to free speech because of Twitter or social media. But the point that you raised, and I think it's a good one, and I know what you're saying, and believe me, I understand that. I think all innocent lives should be protected. I don't think that you should have ever had to gone through that. If I could change time and change circumstances, I would have done everything in my power to prevent that.
I think you have that power.
Sheriff, did you want to weigh in?
Columbine, Sandy Hook, Stoneman Douglas, and a host of other tragedies. Doing it the same way isn't working. And I could tell you, you're not going to change, with all due respect, and I think you're an amazing woman, you're not going to change her mind. There's only one way to make America safely. What you're going to have to do, as I said, this young generation, we didn't get it done, but you will get it done. Vote in people who feel the same way you do.
One point. This is the 8th tragedy. The 8th tragedy where we have seen numerous tips that have been reported and red flags that are we talking about prevention or not? I think it's incredibly important.
Keep going.
In Charleston, they had to come out and say that it was a paperwork error, that this individual was a prohibited possessor. In South Carolina, you have to be charged with a felony, not just convicted, but charged with a felony. And he should have never been able to purchase the firearm. The worst school shooting with the murderer in Virginia, this individual was court ordered to undergo mental health evaluations, and he slipped through the cracks. He would have never been able to purchase if this had been known. This is what I'm talking about in terms of prevention and making sure that people who are dangerous should not have access to firearms without punishing law-abiding Americans who want to be able to have that same right to defend themselves.
I want to thank Dana Loesch of the NRA and also Sheriff Scott Israel for being here to listen to your questions. When we come back, a powerful moment with the